Cool. Jonny Gallant, thanks for joining up and calling in from. Are you Mississauga, Ontario, Canada? Is that where you're at?
Mississauga is our hometown, but I'm up north. We live in Toronto now, but I'm up north in cottage country.
Oh, beautiful. Has that been pretty zen for you? Are you did you used to be a city guy, and did it drive you to the brink where you're like, I got to get out in the sticks for some peace?
No, growing up, there was always a cottage in my life to go to on weekends and things like that. So as I grew older, that was kind of a tradition that continued. But I like the city. I'm a city guy.
Yeah, man, I hear you. It's like that lake property is like becoming very sought after, and you kind of wonder as like the wealth gap divides, and quote unquote, those who have infinite money are starting to buy up like city blocks and entire like lake properties. It's so magical to still have access to one of those places,
Yeah, we got lucky. My wife she had some foresight, and we got this place a long time ago. So, but you're right. That's kind of becoming an issue with society these days. People scooping up everything and then renting it.
Exactly. Yeah.
People with money.
So I remember seeing you guys. I played Canadian Music Week the same year you guys were on, and you were doing like a inductee to the Canadian Rock Music Hall of Fame, something like that. And one thing I remember is like seeing you guys like backstage and just like holy shit, like this band is like intimidating. You guys are all in like good shape. You're like jacked. You're like well put together. Like. I feel like when you go out on stage, you're like, all right, we're going to just fucking mop the floor with every other band on the bill. This is what I'm picturing going through your mind. Did you grow up playing youth sports or anything that kind of gave you like a competitive, like we're going to just completely fuck shit up?
I think, a couple of us played sports, but I think we're all kind of competitive in nature a bit. Even our guitar player, who's not a sporty guy, I think deep down, like he's competitive in other ways, like in songwriting and stuff. Like I think I could write a better song than that guy.
Yeah.
Like he's got his own competitive spirit too. And I don't know. We always just kind of left it out on the stage. Rock and roll keeps you young, that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys look chipper. I mean, I assume you've been on the road for what are you on now? Like 20 years almost?
Well, we started the band in 1993, sometime around that area. So, but we've been touring professionally for about 20 years. So getting there, 18 years or something like that.
Was there a point where, before you kind of got on the rocket ship, so to speak, and got bigger breaks or whatever, was there a point where like morale was kind of low and you're like, man, I'm not sure we can keep going? Or was it always just like kind of uninhibited confidence?
No, we went through about like our first 7 or 8 years of just banging our heads against the wall, trying to meet people, meet other bands to play with. Back then it was pre-internet and everything like that. So we had to make cassette tapes and packages and send them to labels, and to get your foot inside the door was difficult. So it became quite discouraging, I guess, after years of doing that, to the point where the band did kind of fall apart a couple of times here and there. We managed to pull it back together. And then we kind of relocated to downtown Toronto, refocused our music. We changed our name to Billy Talent, and kind of had a life. Ian started writing songs like Try Honesty and How It Goes. And then this demo kind of just got some people in the industry a little bit interested in our band. And once our foot was in the door, nobody was going to close it.
Wow. So do you think without a name change that wouldn't have happened? Was that vital?
Well, we had to make the change because we were getting legal pressure. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I was getting this weird clap back and hearing everything I was saying twice. Sorry. Yeah, we were getting legal pressure from a band who already owned the name. We were called Pez. And so we had to change it regardless. But I think with that change, we we just kind of refocused our energies into songs that were really moving us that we were writing. And those were songs like, particularly like Try Honesty and How It Goes and things like that. Some of our early tunes, Billy Talent songs. Like we have a whole bunch of Pez songs too. But
did you feel like you were deleting like 10 years of work when you changed the band name? Because that's like a fear I think bands have. It's like you the industry loves a duo, like a start over. I feel like they like bands that haven't been touched before, so I'm sure they're into a name change. But I think for you guys putting just like so many, so much money and time into it, it must have felt kind of a little bit destroying.
It felt huge. It felt huge for us. In retrospect, it was ridiculous for us to think that way because nobody knew us. Like there was maybe our gigs were our families and friends that would come to the show, and maybe a couple of bands that we were playing with. Or we played our high school and stuff like that. We would throw flyers around, and that's how we would get people to come to our shows. So, yeah, it felt like because we had made 2 cassette tapes and a full-length CD. And it didn't feel like we were kind of taking a huge risk and, like you said, throwing a bunch of history out the window. But in retrospect, that's just it's not the case. It was a smart idea, and it worked out for us, obviously.
Yeah, nice, man. Do you have any shows come to mind of like just absurd, soul crushing nights on the road or anything like that you look back fondly with hilarity?
Oh yeah, they're soul crushing ones. We played. We were excited to get into the Rivoli in Toronto, which is a really nice, like small venue, and we were in the backstage, and we're excited for this great gig that we have on Queen Street. And we get there, and there's basically maybe 6 people that are our girlfriends and things like that at the show. But the best part about it is the bartender who watched the entire show enjoyed it. And she was Leslie Feist.
Who's that?
Before she had broke.
Oh, Feist.
So she was, yeah. So that was kind of neat. She's a legend now. She got to see us at our most embarrassing or most, disheartened.
And you became pals after that?
We do know each other. Yeah. I'd say our singer's definitely friends with her. She's not in my phone book or anything like that, but we see each other around. We would say hello. I usually have to reintroduce myself every time, but she meets a lot of people.
Yeah, nice. I remember I was first turned on to like Canadian rock music because when I was a little kid, my first favorite band ever was the Bare Naked Ladies. So I was like, nice. Holy shit, Ontario, that must be the coolest place in the world. So, and then you start paying attention to these bands coming out of Ontario, and it's like everybody, it's I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Canada's
but it's stacked with talent.
Well, I honestly think it's a couple of things. We have a culture that supports music a little bit. I think in a very positive way, and the government supports it a little bit. If you're an aspiring artist, you can get grants and things like that to help you along your career. And I think you spend a lot of time indoors in the winter, playing instruments, being creative. You got a way to nurture it.
Yeah, man, I get it. I know what it's like to live in the Arctic over here in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
and I'm finding like I'm 10 years into touring and all that kind of stuff, and I'm starting to find like I'm just not as resilient as I used to be. Like it's like tougher to deal with the bullshit and all the logistics and all the side missions that go with like putting a show on, which I'm sure you can relate to. And I started like touring sober, and that's been kind of good and just like enabled me to be like more efficient with my energy and everything. Do you have any advice on like how to, keep on the road long term and have it not get more and more challenging? Like what keeps you sane? What keeps you in it? What keeps you interested?
Definitely, for longevity purposes, you have to take care of yourself. I think that just goes with life. Like I'm 46 now, and I feel every ache and pain that I wake up, I have to stretch right away and stuff like that, and chasing around my kids and things like that. Like it wears you out, but you have to stay in shape to kind of do it. I think performing takes a little bit out of you physically. if you do a like 90-minute set and you're kind of, even if you're just rocking it like that, the bass weighs 20 pounds on your neck and all this kind of stuff. You just gotta, stay strong, I guess. And yeah, like you said, I'm sure doing it sober is probably helping you a lot, because that the partying can take a lot out of you. That's another thing too. If you're gonna party, you gotta kind of pace yourself. Usually people go really hard right at the beginning, and then you kind of fall into like a groove.
Yeah.
And then there's the end party. So if you can get through that beginning party without like destroying your voice or something, you're all right.
Yeah, totally, man. I wish I could have just a few casual beers without feeling the blues. I get the blues, and it just, I'm like hypersensitive to all feelings and substance and all that. So it's I don't have the luxury of being just a bigger person who can slug down a few Miller Lights and feel nothing.
I don't know if that's a bigger person or maybe it's a soulless person.
Yeah. If you're drinking Miller Lite, I mean, you gotta really question your palate.
Miller Lite. I don't know if I can get that in Canada.
What's the worst beer in Canada?
That's a good question. Coors Light, my opinion.
Yeah,
but that's
who would want to drink a beer that tastes like bananas? You know what I mean, Johnny?
Oh, you know what though? In Germany, you have the Hefeweizen beers, those wheat beers, and they have a banana kind of little aftertaste to them that's like delicious. But it's like a wheat beer. It's completely different.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think I've always been a big fan of anything that tastes like banana that's not an actual banana or a beer. Like banana Laffy Taffy, like a banana snow cone, like banana cream pie. I don't know what it is, man, but it's as long as it's one food item removed from the actual source, I'm very into it.
That's funny. My wife is the same way. She eats banana bread, but will never touch a banana.
Yeah, what is that? Maybe it's the texture.
I don't get that. And ketchup chips too. She'll eat ketchup chips and she'll never eat ketchup.
Ketchup is horrible. I can't believe anyone gets into ketchup.
You're like my wife's. You must be like my wife's long lost brother.
Just straight corn syrup in mayo dyed red. I don't know.
Is that what it is?
Any sense to me?
I like it on my fries.
What's your kind of workout regimen? You are the most jacked man in the band, from what I can remember. What do you do?
Oh no, I don't know, man. When I was in my early 20s, I was a single guy and I trained really hard just to. Actually, I started smoking when I was really young, and I was going to college for music, and I remember trying to carry my bass up the stairs, and by the time I got at the top, my lungs were heaving and I was just like dying, and I'm like, how can I be 19 and this like disgustingly out of shape? Mm-hmm. And so I hit the gym, and I just kind of somewhat got addicted to it, I guess. I had nothing else to do, so I'd go to school, play in the band, and just go work and go to the gym. And when you start young, and then it just stays with you. Now I just jog, do push-ups, play hockey, that kind of stuff.
Are you like everyone else, where it's like impossible, like you have to convince yourself and almost trick yourself to like getting out the door to go to the gym, and then once you get there, it's great, and that whole thing?
I'm pretty motivated. I smoke a lot of weed, so I gotta keep my lungs going if I want to do that. It's just like, it's kind of this balance that I have to maintain if I want to do the vices that I'm into,
Yeah, man.
So
I do feel like the times I've smoked weed and then lifted weights is like, it's really awesome. Like, it helps you hyper focus and you feel everything really intensely. I think it's great. I'm generally not doing them at the same time. Sometimes with hockey, but it's more so just to keep the lungs strong, Yeah, check it out. It's like Jon Stewart and Half Baked. I'm an enhancement smoker.
That's right.
There you go.
An enhancement smoker. That's true.
You have any other vices?
No, the cannabis is the big one. I do like to drink beer, but I'm more of a casual drinker. I'm like you. I get kind of depressed, especially the next day, like and emotional. And I've actually had a few drinks the last 3 days because my wife's on vacation and we're up here, and I'm feeling it today. I'm like, if I watched ET, I would just like that would be the end of me. I'd be crying for a week.
Start bawling.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of addicted to that, and I like hockey. I'm a big hockey guy. I play it regularly. Follow the Leafs, but I actually would call it a bit of a vice because it's part of my mental health too. Just to get out and play a game of hockey with my friends. You don't think about anything else really. You're just trying to score a goal for an hour.
So is it like a pond hockey league, or are you in an actual hockey league, or how's it shake?
Yeah, in Canada, there's more ice rinks than schools, so like everybody plays, and there's a big chunk of older guys like me that just never stop playing. You just keep playing, and you play in men's leagues, and there's no body contact. Like once you hit a certain age, no body checking or anything like that. And then there's other things where guys just rent the ice every week at a particular time, and it's like $12 a skate, and the guy fills out the rosters, and you just play casually. And those are actually the best type of games because they're pretty intense, but there's no refs and it's casual. No.
That's awesome, man. I always wanted to play hockey as a kid, but the gear was too expensive, so my parents didn't want me to play hockey.
It's I imagine it to be like football in that way. You know, you have to have all your specialized equipment, helmets, shoulder pads, and skates. I guess it would cleats in football, but all three of my kids play, and it gets pretty hectic.
Did you play you play in college or anything? High school?
No, I didn't play for any high school team or anything like that. I just I never played too high level when I was growing up, because once I got into base, that kind of took over for me, and then I just went house league hockey, which is like once a week. But when I got into college, and like I said earlier, I was working out all the time. I ended up getting a lot better, and I played for the college. It was just like a tournament team, but that was kind of like real hockey. It was full contact when everybody's a man at that point, and it was good competitive hockey, but it wasn't anything that would be tracked in any kind of way.
It's weird. It's like we have the same weather as you guys here in Wisconsin, but like hockey is just not as big a thing. It's like Wisconsin's really all like, it's a big basketball state. When you're a kid, everyone plays soccer. But I don't know anyone who watches hockey down here, and it's a shame because it's such a rad, exciting sport. Yeah,
you guys don't have a pro team or an NHL team anyway.
We don't, yeah.
I don't know what would be the closest team for you guys.
We got the Milwaukee Admirals. You heard of them? They're like a semi-pro team.
Yeah, that'd be probably the AHL team. What's the closest state to
Minnesota, Chicago, and then Chicago Black.
So Illinois and so
I heard they banned fighting in the NHL. Is that still a thing? Because I remember they used to let dudes just fight. Like they would throw down and like throw the gloves off, and then the ref would just like let them go, which was like such an exciting, weird thing to let happen.
It was never legal. You get penalized if you got in a fight, but no, that you can still do that. The players are just wiser now, and it's not people. I think I'm glad it's kind of out of the game. When I was a kid, I used to love that stuff. Like, me and my friends had goon pools and things like that where we would select guys based on their penalty minutes. And no, nowadays you see a fight maybe once every 4 or 5 games, and it's more of a kind of a wrestling match where they just kind of throw each other down to the ground. But I think that just with the awareness with concussions and all that kind of stuff in the last 20 years, people just started to see that stuff as for what it was, pretty barbaric and not really anything to do with code or honor. Like fighting is ridiculous, but I still like seeing a fight every once in a while. Hockey,
Goon Pool. That'd be a great band name. Great
Goon Pool name. Yeah.
I wonder if teams still have like the go-to like goon guy, because in the NBA in the 90s you always had like the defensive savage, like super stopper,
Charles Oakley.
Yeah. Like a dude who just talks shit and then like rough up the other team's best player. I mean, I imagine that was probably a big thing in hockey too.
Yeah, it was, but more so, those guys were just around to protect like the really, really top players. Like if Gretzky got hit, Dave Semenko would beat the hell out of you. So, but he would play on a different line. Those guys, yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. But there's still room for the big intimidating guy that'll put a guy through the boards with a clean check. Like if you got a 6'4" guy leaning against you into the boards versus a guy who's 5'10", 170 pounds, the big guy is going to be pretty effective, especially if he can skate fast.
Right.
So,
who's the biggest guy in hockey?
I think it's Zdeno Chara. I think he's 6'9".
Okay.
Or 6'11" or something.
In the NBA, like it used to be like a big man dominated game. It would be like, you had to have Patrick Ewing or Hakeem Olajuwon. You had to have like a 7-2 guy if you wanted to win it all. And now it's like the game has gone so much in reverse where it's all guard play, and you don't even need you don't need those big 7-2 guys anymore because they're just slow and defensive liabilities. So it's wild.
Yeah.
Just like the pace of life and technology is just getting rapidly faster. It's like the same thing in sports. Everything's just getting faster and sleeker.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's an interesting shift, and you wonder if it'll phase back because there's going to be a team that has a whole bunch of really, really big guys and they'll win a championship, and then it's kind of a copycat league, and then the other teams will start looking for those 7-footers again, and then have a whole team of 7-footers, and then they're unstoppable, and then everybody's like, it's weird how it shifts around. But you're right. Like Seth Curry came in and started hitting threes all the time, and everybody started realizing that's kind of important. And now every team shoots threes. Like
3 points are better than 2. I remember. Do you remember this game for Nintendo called Ice Hockey? It was like,
oh yeah,
where it was like 4-on-4, and you could select your team, and you could either be a skinny guy, a medium guy, or a fat guy. And the fat guys could shoot like way bigger slap shots, but they were slow. And then the skinny guys were super weak, but they were super quick. And that was like my introduction to hockey as a kid.
There was a cheat code for that. You could do some like up, down, left, right, BBAA or some sort of cheat code, and you could make the puck just bounce all over the boards. So if you shot the puck, it just wouldn't stop until somebody could pick it up.
Oh, I vaguely remember that now. I wouldn't have remembered that until you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my like video gaming time, was just that original Nintendo, and then after that, I didn't play any other consoles.
Man, that was a magical time where you would just like specifically like try to make friends with a kid who had Nintendo because it was so rare, to be able to play. Like this is like the video game era, or like the arcade era. So to be able to play video games at home with the original Nintendo was like such a big deal. I remember just being completely mind blown. I remember this kid I knew down the street got a Nintendo, and I just like couldn't sleep at night because I couldn't believe how excited it was.
Like with Duck Hunt, and it came with Duck Hunt and that Olympic game Mario. And the original Super Mario's, and I have a little back there, like a little miniature one that's like this, and it has a whole bunch of the original games in it. And I could still like kick ass in Super Mario Brothers. I'm so programmed. Even after I didn't play it for 30 years, I knew everything. Just do it with the B button down, going super fast and all that. But now my kid, like, he plays with those Xbox controllers that have like 30 buttons on them, and
I wonder if like kids now, if there's any appeal to the 8-bit Nintendo, or if they just think it's a pile of garbage.
My boy plays with me sometimes. I'll boot up The Legend of Zelda. Now that you can go on the internet and get all the maps and the cheat codes and all that kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier. Stuff that would take me like months to figure out, you can just go on the internet and get the information.
Yeah, what other games were big for you as a kid for Nintendo?
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That was
I remember that one.
Baseball Stars was a good one. That was another one where you could have the short, tall, and or medium-sized guy.
Yeah.
Or the upright batter.
My brother and I, we would play Tommy Lasorda baseball, and we would bet money. This is when like we made like $1 a week on allowance. So we would bet our allowance on like one game, and like it would always end in like a screaming match, and like one kid would be crying, and like parents would have to intervene. It would have a meltdown, you know.
Well, that's a good introductory to the disappointments of gambling.
Very much so. I remember just being so in college. I was just like so burnt out on watching sports all the time, but my roommates were still very much into it, and it was like Sunday all day football. So I specifically started gambling on the games just to stay into sports, and it totally worked, you know.
Oh, football, like that's got to be what it's all about, because I don't understand. Like that sport is so, to me, not knowing all the logistics about the sport, because I think you really, really not need to be deep into it to understand maybe its awesomeness or something like that. But I don't get it as a guy who doesn't watch football. It's like I watch the Super Bowl, and it's kind of mildly interesting because there's a lot on the line, and there is the gambling part. But if there wasn't any gambling, I don't know how popular that sport would be.
Is the Canadian Football League not like no one gives a shit about it up there?
They just had the Grey Cup. There's a portion of Canadians that give a shit about it. Not in Toronto, really. Nobody really cares about it in Toronto too much.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the Midwest where I live, it's like beer and football. Like people live and die for this stuff. And it's exciting. It's exciting to like have that buzz around the city when there's a game. But I think just like you don't connect to American football at all, like we don't connect to hockey or like rugby. You know how like some countries it's just like rugby is God. And
yeah, cricket.
It's not cricket. Yeah, if it's not in your DNA and you don't watch it, it just all of a sudden you're adult and it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I always often wonder that if I had grown up in another country, what would I have gotten hooked on? I figured if I was in California, I probably would have been a surfer. Like I just would have something that would have, because I've tried surfing a few times and it's really good, but it would have to be something that is kind of consuming like that and more of a lifestyle. And I think that's an interesting thought, because you're right. It's like where you're born forms so much of your personality.
But surfing, yeah, Johnny, but what about sharks, man? Like, I don't know how people like surf and there's like sharks underneath them and if they're unfazed by it, that just spooks me so hard.
You just got to look at the statistical analysis and kind of go with it. That's what I do. It's just like flying a plane, right? Just go with the numbers. Safe.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like just things underwater. It's so terrifying to me, and there's like a name for this type of phobia where it's like even you'll see like a plastic bag floating underwater and it just is completely terrifying. It's like this it makes it look like this like alternate dimension, just seeing anything underwater. Like I remember when we would go up to my great grandma's cabin, there was this thing like 20 yards off the shore that they called the fish crib, which was you familiar with fish cribs? Basically just like a giant grid of wood logs that somebody nails together, puts it on the ice in the middle of winter, and then when the ice melts, it falls to the bottom of the lake, and then it attracts fish, and fish hang out and like hide in there. And on a sunny day, you could see the fish crib through the water, and it was just like this giant like archaic, creepy structure, and you know, the water makes it bend and looks horrifying. Yeah. And I would never swim near it. My dad would like go swim down and like touch the fish crib with his finger, and we would be like terrified with him. And you could see all the big bass like swimming around down there. So I don't know. I'm just afraid of the water.
I did great white shark diving in South Africa when we were on tour.
No.
In Cape Town. We got off the plane and we were in the van. And we had this wine tour that was scheduled for us on an off day. And in the van, there was these pamphlets for shark diving. I'm like, guys, we're going to go on a wine tour? Who wants to go shark diving? And a few guys wanted to go shark diving. So I ditched the wine tour and went shark diving. And it was insanely amazing. But you would have not been able to handle it, I don't think.
Whoa. But, so you're in the cage in the deep sea? You
drop down and they chum the water.
Oh, my God.
Great whites come. Like I made a video. You can see it's on the internet. If you search Billy Talent sharks, and you can see they were averaging 9 feet long. These sharks, and we were in a famous great white area actually, where they do a lot of those documentaries. Where you've seen those documentaries where they jump right out of the air, and it's in that area. It's by Seal Island, which millions of seals hang out on this one particular island, and that's like shark food. So there's tons of sharks there too. So that's where the boats go. And yeah, it was amazing, man. And
how close did they get to the cage?
They were banging right into the cage. Like they would throw a big chunk of fish on a rope, throw it in the water, and as the sharks were coming, and pull it towards the cage, so you would get a really, really great view out of them. One of them smashed right into the cage. His nose like comes into the cage.
Oh my god! And obviously they're like, don't touch the sharks or whatever.
Yeah, if you touch a shark, you're out of the cage and you're not allowed back in there. You have to sit on the boat for the rest of the day. Like even if you try. So they're pretty strict about that. They've never had an accident yet. This guy is the most famous guy in this area.
Jabru will come to Cape Town and take you to rub some sharks in the nose. It'll be kiff. Spend all your money, brew. Yeah, I love South Africa.
Yeah, that was a trip. And then I got to do a wine tour and another South African tour, so I won in the end.
Dude, that's one of my favorite places in the world. I'm going there in January, actually.
Oh, really? In Cape Town?
I've been there like 7 or 8 times. I got some of my best buddies live there. How did your shows go there? Was it pretty cool?
Yeah. So anyway, that shark place is called McFarland Tours. If you want to look into it while you're there,
I'm not going. I'm too scared. Man. I remember the scene in Jaws where the shark breaks the cage and then eats the man out of the cage.
No, I felt pretty comfortable. Yeah, the shows in South Africa have been amazing. We've gone on 2 separate times, and yeah, just we don't go down there to make money or anything like that. It's just the touring experience, keep the machine going too. Mm-hmm. And we've been lucky enough to have an audience there, and yeah, it's been great. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I got a bunch of buddies in Durban that are real into you guys. Did you play in Durban? Did you get to eat bunny chow? You remember that stuff?
No, I didn't try the bunny chow. I'm gonna have to do that if we ever go back. We did play in Durban. We played at this it looked like we were in Mississauga, to be honest. It looked like a brand new suburban type of city.
Oh, really?
And we played at this skate park type of thing outdoors and in a makeshift venue. Yeah. It's kind of neat.
Durban is a wild place. It's because it's got a massive Indian population and African population, and it's just it's got that cool mix of like old African architecture mixed with all kind. There's they speak 11 languages down there, so it's it's hard to even explain, but it's you got to be careful walking around down there, and it's a blend of a little bit of everything, and I think that edge and that it just makes it such a great city,
Yeah, we didn't get too much of an opportunity to stay there. We had played near Johannesburg the night before, and then flew in, and we got in. Oh my God, that was one of the longest days of our lives. We played what was it called? The Kiti Vidi Festival or something like that. It was north of Johannesburg, about 4 hours, and we went on really late at 11 p.m. or something like that. Played our set, and then we were staying at I'm blanking out here because it's morning. What do you call the place where you see animals? Like a safari place, like where what do you call it? Like a reserve, like a protected.
Yeah. Reserve, like Kruger National Park.
Yeah, it might have been Kruger National Park actually, and no, it wasn't Kruger, but anyway, we were staying at one of those places, but it was 2 hours from the venue, so we never got home from our show until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then everybody was getting up at 5 to go on a free safari, and nobody was gonna there were a bunch of guys that decided not to go, but most of us got up at 5 in the morning to do the free African lion safari.
Nice.
Who wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
You can't miss that if you might be only in Africa once in your whole life. So we all got up and we did the safari, and that was a few hours. We saw some really cool things. And then we had to drive by car another 4 hours north of that place to play in a little village. Just we were playing an acoustic set just for some kids for fun, and we were going to give away like candy and school supplies and just do something nice for one of the impoverished communities up there. So we went and did that, and then we had to drive 6 hours to the airport in Johannesburg to fly to Durban. So we get all the way there finally after this long day. I'm like, oh, all right, 2 hours to Durban or whatever the flight was. And then we just get to crash in our hotel room, and we were staying on the casino. So that kind of sounded fun. And so we get on the plane, and we're taxiing, and we're there for taxiing, sitting on the runway for about an hour. They're saying there was a problem at the Durban airport. Then they finally get settled. We fly all the way to Durban, and we get there, and the plane turns around and starts flying back, and the captain comes on the air and he goes, there was a problem at the Durban airport. The lights weren't working, so we can't land. We had to fly back to Johannesburg, and then until they figure it out. So we flew all the way back to Johannesburg, landed. They didn't let us off the plane. They flew the plane again all the way back to Durban, just basically after sitting on the runway for another half an hour, did the whole flight back to Durban again, then landed, and then got to our hotel at some god-awful hour. And then we played in Durban the next day, and that was my whole Durban experience. So I didn't get to experience it the way you have.
Yeah, one time we took a night train from Durban to Johannesburg. You know, it's like a $3 night train, and it's eerie because you kind of go through the tunnels, you get to the train, like no one appears to be working there. There's nobody around. It was just me and my buddy Matt and Pascal, and we got a night cabin train, and it's pretty uncomfortable. You know, it's very rickety, it's dirty, and we eat a bunch of melatonin, drink a bunch of beers because we know it's going to be really tough to sleep. And so we're having a good time, eating some bunny chow. We pass out, and I hear this slamming on the cabin door, like at 3 a.m. It's like, hello, open now. And I looked at the clock. It's 3:10, middle of the night. I'm like, that's weird. I almost opened the door because the person kept banging on the door, and then I remembered someone saying there's a lot of night train robbers, so don't open the door. And in my state of drunkenness and just being out of it, I almost opened this door and let this guy in. He probably would have taken all our stuff. So he eventually, after like 15 minutes, just went. He was gone. But then we woke up in the morning, and you know, you're going through the mountains, and it's like 6 a.m. and you see like you're basically in the clouds looking down these huge mountains through these like canals and rivers. It was like the most incredible train experience I've probably had, and also the creepy.
That's wild. Yeah, those train rides are fun. That must have been scary.
Yeah, especially being in South Africa for the first time and kind of not knowing the protocol.
And everybody tells you it's dangerous.
Yeah, it can be sketch, you know, and you read enough stuff on the internet, and then you just think you're going to get mugged the second you land. But it's really all good once you like follow kind of, don't go here, you know, only stick to these zones. And I've never had a problem there, but you know, everyone's got private security and barbed wire fences and electric fences, because I guess you can't trust the cops there. So everyone hires their own like private security firms. So I mean, break-ins are pretty common. Most of my friends have gotten mugged or robbed there. But you know, I think it's just a lot of poverty. You know, I don't think people necessarily want to hurt you. They just need some dough. That's it. Those people are desperate. That's I don't think they want to hurt people either. I'm sure they would rather not be stealing and mugging people. You know, they could end up in jail or hurt. Have you got to go to any other kind of far out there wild places with the band? That plane or train ride you're talking about reminds me of we played in Russia a handful of times, and have taken an overnight train from Moscow to Kiev, and that's an interesting ride too. And there was one time we get on this train. It looked like it was 70 years old, like a really, really old train. And it had the same types of sleeping bunks and stuff like that.
And we played our gig, and we had to go right to the train. So nobody had any dinner after. Like, people get hungry after the show. You know how it is. You work through your energy, and everybody's kind of spun a little bit when the show's over and generally ready to eat. But so they assured us that there would be food on the train. So we get on the train, it starts rolling. There's no food. There's no food car or restaurant car on this train. It's just a plain old passenger train. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, and then people kept on assuring us, oh, there'll be food. And we're like, all right. So like you, everybody kind of crashes, and it's about 3:00 in the morning, and the train stops, and people are saying, okay, food stop or whatever. People say, get off the train. And so we get off. Everybody gets off the train, and it's pitch black, and you can't see anything except for the lights that are on the train where you get on. And then all of a sudden, just out of the shadows, these like babushka women come out of the shadows. Like, one of them had a whole jacket of stuffed animals that you could pull a stuffed animal off of her to bring to your child or whatever. The other one was carrying homemade potatoes and chickens that they cook in their own houses. Nice. And then they bring it and sell it to the people that are on the train. So we had to buy all these like homemade meals from these babushka women in the middle of Ukraine or Russia. Wow. We don't even know where we were. It was good. Yeah, it was delicious. It's probably chickens from their farm type of thing. And so that was kind of an interesting night. But
there's something eerie about just traveling, especially in another country, and being woken up from a deep slumber, and you're just in the middle of the night, and you're just in Russia or in Ukraine, or just like you have to go to the airport in Poland at 4 a.m. It's like a kind of a terrible feeling,
especially when they're speaking to you in that stern Eastern European tone.
Oh yeah.
And if it's in Russian too, it's just like blah, blah, blah. They just look angry all the time.
Yeah, they like to party over there in Russia, huh?
Oh, they drink vodka.
Is the stereotype real?
It's real. Like they pour you a cup of vodka, like it'd be like that much vodka, and you just drink it. It's good vodka though. It doesn't taste like the stuff that we like. It doesn't taste like turpentine or alcohol or nail polish remover. That crappy stuff that we have here.
I think there's something about the clear booze, they say, where you just get less hungover or goofed up from it.
I think that might be that could be true. With the first time we played there, like it was pretty sketchy. They say don't feed the dogs in the street because there's wild dogs everywhere. We were in a little bit of a rougher part of town on our first trip there, and our security guard was a Hell's Angel, so that was very comforting. And there was a giant arm wrestling table in our dressing room. And then after the show, that ended up coming out into the forefront, and it became a big night of gambling and arm wrestling and vodka and caviar and crepes. That's what they eat too. Caviar and crepes. That's their specialty.
Oh man, that sounds wacky. I remember I lived in Asia for a couple of years, and I was playing a gig in like northern Thailand, and the bar had closed. We were like having some drinks, and I was walking home in this little town in the middle of the night, and I got surrounded by a pack of wild dogs, and they were going nuts. They were just like all like getting real packy and like barking at me, and it was super spooky. I was like, I didn't know what they were going to do. And it was the only through road. There wasn't like a way to go around it. So I had like a bag of like snacks or like Thai nuts or snacks in my pocket. And I kind of threw the snacks like over on the other side of the road, and they all kind of started like munching on that. And like a few of them stopped like barking at me. And then I kind of walked real slow around and got back to my straw hut. I was actually staying in a straw hut, $4 a night, Johnny.
That sounds actually like a great adventure. Yeah, not the dog part, but the straw hut.
More romantic than it sounds. I feel like I was pretty depressed at the time, just wandering around Asia by myself. But all in all, I do have very fond memories of those weird times living on $6 a day.
I kind of always wanted to do an alone adventure like that, and just go and just be with myself and
Oh yeah.
explore. You know, I always
Please
thought
do
that would happen.
Yeah, I mean,
One
there's
day.
nothing like traveling Southeast Asia by yourself. It is, it's like you're just walking around on Mars, and
It's got to be humbling, man, because you
yeah.
get no help. Like nobody speaks English. So,
It's just the right amount of challenging. Like it's not impossible. You can get around with English. It's affordable. The food's great, but yeah, I mean, you can't like culturally, you can't get any more far away than like Western, culture than
yeah.
traveling around Asia with a backpack. I recommend it highly. Well, yeah, man, this has been awesome. Thanks for riffing with me. You're super fun, dude. Love your work. And do you have any projects you want to punt before we?
Yeah,
Sign
man, we
off?
got a new album coming out January 21st, Crisis of Faith. We've already had a few singles out. They've done really well. We were sitting on the album for a little while because of COVID and everything, but at some point we needed to get it out there, and I can't wait to tour it and to get out touring. So yeah, we got Canadian tour tickets on sale. There'll be more announcements and all that kind of stuff coming. Stay tuned for the
man.
album.
Yeah, you guys do great work, and you do. It's just some of the most original stuff in the alternative punk world. So keep
Thanks, man.
trucking. You've struck a cool vein, and it's you're doing it right.
I appreciate that.
Much love, Johnny.
Right on. Nice talking to you.